What is up? I am Miguel Antonio, and this is the Live and Create podcast. It's where I visit with artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. And on this episode, we have Jillian Riscoe. She's an artist and entrepreneur building some great things. Solo artist. She's fronts a band called The Wannabes. She works with Kinder Music and also teaches privately. It was great to hear what drives her entrepreneurial spirit behind the creativity and also hear about her own personal journey of pulling herself out of a dark spot in her life and how that's driven her relationships and has driven her future and driven her career. And really comes back to this concept of you are capable and you are limitless. And yeah, it'll be a great conversation. Hope you guys enjoy.
The Live and Create podcast.
Touch online, but it seems like 2020, though a crazy year, you've been making still a whole lot of moves, which has been really cool to watch. And so that was one thing. I want to dive into hopefully a few things if we have time, but I wanted to hear from you, like what 2020's been like and where the motivation for you came from just to keep making these moves in the spite of really how fucked up the year's been. So
Right. Yeah, no, I've been really, I feel like lucky and grateful in the fact that there were a lot of different acoustic shows, really more like late spring into like early fall that I was able to play that were outside and like safe and socially distanced. And it slowed down pretty massively because, excuse me. Oh my gosh.
Oh no, you got the Rona.
Miguel, holy crap.
It's like if you're ever in a store and you like something gets in your throat, you're like, don't cough.
I know. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me start that over. I don't know how you're editing this, but oh my God.
It's all good. Usually I just kind of keep it in unless someone's just like, please cut this thing I just said out. Like for the most part, my hope is just to have like we're hanging out, getting coffee and chilling, good conversation. So.
Okay. So yeah, don't mind my coughing. That was really cool. It's the furnace. It's dry. Okay. So yeah, this year, like I said, I've been able to play a good handful of like just safe and socially distant shows. Obviously it's kind of weird right now with like the different mandates in place. So I really haven't played this month at all. I have a live stream this week for like some Christmas stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was kind of on a roll last year in 2019 and I played a ton of acoustic shows and I released like my, a solo single after, being in a band for a really long time. And I was working on a lot of stuff. I had a lot of cool shows and even like a tour planned with a friend and then, Corona happened and shut everything down. I'm like, well, I feel like some stuff I can still do and, safely. Because I don't know, I saw something when the quarantine like hit back in March and it was just like how like creativity is not canceled, this isn't canceled. And I'm like, yeah, not everything has to be canceled. And it's been really interesting to see just kind of the landscape of creatives and musicians and what some of us have done and what some of us haven't done. And I know it's different for everybody because everyone's situation is different. So,
right.
Like no judgment upon anybody, because I think that's something we need to keep in mind this year is like everyone's situation is different and you need to do what you need to do as long as you're being safe and, taking care of yourself. So I've just been trying to move forward and do what I can do. So I was able to play some acoustic shows and I'm currently working on a new single.
That's awesome.
So there's just different things that I'm like also just trying to think outside the box. Like I did play some shows with a friend out of Nashville, but all the shows that we played were like safe and socially distanced. And we just were as careful as could be wearing your mask and I don't know. So it's been really cool though, overall to see a lot of people just think really outside the box and even more outside of like live streams. And like, I've done the live stream thing quite a bit, which has connected me with a lot of different people, especially initially back in the spring. So that was really
awesome.
Cool.
Like connected you with people that might want to book gigs or new fans or all of them?
Yes. Yeah. Yes to all that. Like there's one series that I connected with the Kansas City Online Live Music series, and I'm actually the live stream on Tuesday I'm doing is for them.
Okay.
And I connected with a good handful of new people that I might not have before. So that was nice. And, I feel like we're all kind of in this together. Obviously, not everything's opened up in the way that we want. People aren't touring, and the original music venues are, they're struggling. But I feel like that's kind of helped a lot of people like come together and like, okay, we're going to be like ready to like rock when everything opens back up. And so, yeah.
Well, I think there's been some really cool opportunities, like you're talking about, even in the virtual world. Like even this podcast, I started as while I was on tour and I was doing everything in person, which actually made it pretty tough to get a hold of people. And there's places where I was like in a particular city trying to connect with this person, and it just never worked out. And so their stories I wasn't able to really capture. And then all of a sudden, this pushed it to where I'm like, let's try it on Zoom. And now it's opened up a whole new door to connect with people in a way that I typically couldn't. And some of the people that we just couldn't connect, like either they're in a different city when I was in their city or vice versa. And yeah, I think there have been interesting opportunities open up despite the pain that's happening. And, we see like the Rhino is a venue that is really close to my heart. There a lot. Like see what's going on with Record Bar as they're struggling. So there's some realities of pain there as well. But so what's this live stream that's coming up? What is that going to look like, and how have you approached live streams?
Yeah, so the live streams that I've done, I've tried to just make them kind of like as homey and like comfortable as possible. Like we're just hanging out together, like, hey, like come over to my living room and we're hanging out having a little concert. So the live stream on Tuesday is going to be just a Christmas and holiday themed concert. So I'm going to do just Christmas songs acoustic, and I'm going to do some holiday themed music trivia because I am like a music trivia geek. Like I really truly want to host music trivia. And I actually had an opportunity before, it was like right before quarantine hit, and I was about to start hosting music trivia at a spot, and then quarantine hit. So hopefully in the future I can do that, like just that. And like I was hosting the open mic at Aftershock, which is now moving. But anyway, yeah, so
that's a great idea though. I love the idea of trivia in there. I did I think it was last year I was doing some live stream stuff every week, and I would do some songs and then play fact or crap with people online, which ended up I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go, but we tried it, and seemed to work really well and brought people in. Because that's one thing I've noticed about some live streams, can become so you feel disconnected. Just I mean, by the pure fact there's no one there, but then also the performance just becomes internal. And I love that idea, music trivia. I'm not the best at music trivia, so I probably wouldn't steal the idea personally, but I might stick with fact or crap.
I just love that, and I'll do that at like acoustic shows. I'll be like, "Hey, fun fact," just to kind of like talk to the audience if it's depending on the crowd, just to throw out just some random banter. So some music trivia, and then I'm gonna do a few giveaways. So just because it's Christmas time, I'm like, oh, little Christmas giveaway gifts to go along with the trivia. So just to make it fun, because it can, the live streams, like you just said, I have noticed like they can be monotonous, and it's like, okay, what can I do to like change it up a little bit? Because there's so many people and so many talented people online right now in this year alone, that it's like, okay, well, what can I do to just change it up a little bit so it's not the same thing every time? And that's what I'm trying to do on Tuesday, make it fun.
That's brilliant. I was contemplating doing like some regular live streams again, like I was, and but trying to figure out how to make it more engaging. So I might have to toy around with some of those ideas. I love the idea of gift giving. I was doing some kind of giveaways with my email list a while back, and I noticed engagement went up, and I just dropped the ball and lost that. So that's a cool encouragement. I'm gonna need to try some of those things. I dig it.
Yeah. I'm like, if it gets people more engaged, like that's awesome, because and I feel like you're fairly extroverted too. Like I'm super extroverted and social, and this year has been mentally like exhausting, not being able to just like hang out with people like whenever or however I want. And like even hugging people. I know that's like so cheesy, like, but I literally it's like, oh, or and it's just a lot. And it's like being involved like in music so much, and even just going to shows and not being able to do that in its regular form, it like takes a toll on you. Like whether you think
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, it's fine, it's like that felt like it was 10 years ago, you know, like even
Hmm.
the stuff that I was doing before quarantine hit. Like we had played my cover band, the Wannabes, we had played a show at Voodoo Lounge, and it's like that was literally like a few days before quarantine, and that feels like it was 10 years ago. I'm like,
Right.
was that like a lucid dream?
That's so true because it like we're in a new place. We just moved out of the city, kind of moved out to more country area.
Oh, cool.
And but we've been talking about how it feels like we've lived here for years. You know, we did this
Mhm.
in the middle of the quarantine, in part because of everything that was happening in quarantine. And but yeah, everything it seems so ancient, the
Yeah.
way life used to be, because we've become so accustomed to it. And it's funny because I am extroverted, but I kind of went reclusive during this time.
Oh,
And
wow.
then we started filming right about August. Things were looking better, so I started filming some of these interviews in person. And
Yeah.
it was like people were coming in to the studio we were filming, and it's like all the extrovertness came back. It's like, this is great, this is awesome. And then I swear, like 3 days later, they're like, numbers are spiking. I'm like, well, shut it down, we're out. But
Oh
like there
my
was this part of my
gosh.
extrovertness that started coming out of like, oh, I do love this. And it's like, oh man, this is gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while. So
There's just, yeah, there's a magic like about I mean, it's like even like with like live shows and just like doing the whole live show thing or being on the road, like any of that, like there's just like this whole magic about it as, you know, as a creative. And I know, you know, the feelings, you've done a lot of the
mhm,
same stuff too. And it's just like not having that right now and trying to like, oh, we're connecting online, which is like amazing. I'm so glad that we're able to do this. But it's like I would rather be sitting face to face and drinking a coffee with you and doing, you know what I mean? Because it's
right.
just the connection is it's just a different connection. But I don't know. It's crazy. I actually got a shirt from Musicians Corner out of Nashville. They put on concerts at Bicentennial Park,
Mhm.
and so they're like selling all this merch to like raise funds to, you know, be able to keep that going once things open back up. And it says, I miss hugs and live music. I was like, this is so appropriate for me. I'm like, so appropriate for so many people right now. But I was like, I need this shirt because wow, that's me. Like tenfold.
Well, and it's funny because I know you and I both, we do a lot of cover shows on top of, club and like original shows. And
Yeah.
I think the original clubs, which we talked about, have been struggling a lot. The hugs and live music, it seems to be such a family environment,
Yes.
and it's like the Rhino got to a point where I knew I didn't often get to go to shows because I was constantly playing or doing stuff with all of our crazy kids or something. But
Yeah.
it was like when I went there, I knew I was going to see certain people, and you could always tell there's just this deep family vibe and deep connection. And so, yeah, that hopefully will get back as soon as possible, but
I
it'll
can't
probably still
wait.
be a
Like,
while.
yeah, I'm like, I can't wait because I know everyone's saying different stuff, and it's like it's hard to know because there's a lot of just kind of unknowns about all this. But it's
Yeah,
like I feel like it's gonna be like almost. I'm hoping and I'm feeling like there's gonna be like a renaissance that's gonna happen.
yeah. I think so. People will be like, "Oh my God, we're out! Let's do this!" And all the creativity, and hell, like all the things going on in politics and the world right now. I mean, it's just been it's primed for great creativity, I think.
Yes,
And I think people are ready to just bring it out in a new way and for the passion of it, which will be cool to see. So,
absolutely.
but so you're performing solo, releasing original music. You have the Wannabes, where you're performing. You're doing like corporate gigs and cover gigs, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, and so it was our first year actually playing as a group this year, and our first show, like I said, we got to do a spot at Voodoo Lounge, like
Mm,
literally days before everything shut down. And we were like not even it was funny because I was looking back, I was just missing live shows, and I was looking back at some footage that I had taken that night, and I was like, yeah, we're the Wannabes, we can't wait to see you guys more and more in 2020, we're playing so many shows. And I was like, you fool.
well, even then, we thought it was all going to be back, by May, right? It's like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
we'll just shut down and life will get back to normal. It'll be fine. So,
Oh my
in the Wannabes, you guys are hustling, and then I notice you're doing, is it Kinder music? Is that what it's called?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is music? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so Kinder Music, they offer music and movement classes for toddlers and young children, so like newborns up to age 7.
Okay.
And I just graduated from that like a week and a half ago. So I'm in preparation of like actually starting classes. So I started teaching. So I've been teaching vocal and beginner guitar lessons at Bentley Guitar Studios in Parkville.
Okay.
Um, so I've been doing that since the summer. And then I've been training for Kinder Music. So I'll be doing that as well, which is really awesome. So I'm doing music and just creative work full time, which is a super interesting time right now to be doing it. But I'm thankful that I have lessons and my students are awesome. And yeah, Kinder Music will be starting up here in the next couple months. So just
That's cool.
getting that all prepared on trying to figure out what live gigs look like in 2021, because I love that. That's my passion. And but being able to teach kiddos is awesome. I love working with kids and being
Now, are
able to
you
share
renting a
music.
space?
You
Oh, sorry. Are you renting a space for that, or they have a school that you're kind of jumping into? What does that look like for Kindred Music?
Yeah, so we're figuring out some different spots. We have some different spots that we're working on. And Bentley's, I do have a room there as far as like my private lessons go, and I
Mm-hmm.
do teach a couple lessons like online. So it's kind of a mix of a healthy mix of a few different things happening
That's
there.
cool.
Yeah,
But you're making it happen in 2020. And I
yeah,
hope if there's any artists listening to this, they can find that inspiration in there too. Because, like you said, everyone's situation is different.
yeah,
But to see like there are ways to move forward even in the arts world. Now, one thing I know about you, you've always had this business mindset behind the artistry,
yeah.
which I think is unique in the music world. I meet a lot of musicians who are like, it's just all about the art. Good luck with the business thing. Where did the passion for the business side of things start for you?
I think really like I've been doing music since I was a kid, since I was like 7 years old. And my parents were always really heavily involved, and they're still incredibly supportive. They were really heavily involved when I was in high school, and I really started playing more live gigs with like a band. And then I had made my first solo record, like basically like my senior year of high school, and like right outside that. So I had them, and I also had a manager at the time, and
Nice.
kind of the combination of my mom really helped with a lot of stuff. Like she's very like sales minded, and like she helped so much with that. And then also I had a really cool manager who was just very like innovative and kind of new age, and like the way he thought, like he was just kind of like always on like ahead of the game, it felt like,
That's good.
with the trends and the industry. And I don't know, my mind I kind of just absorbed a lot of that, and it was enjoyable to me. And then I started working like on helping with like booking and like, just marketing type stuff. Like that was just always kind of like fun, to be on that end of things and like help with branding. And I was always like, let's theme things out. Like that was like a huge thing, when I would like produce and like book shows like back in the day. And even still, obviously it's kind of different right now. But yeah, that's kind of, I would say that's where I got some of it. And I still have always been interested in that. That's why I've like, I mean, even like, I know with you and I like, some of the shows I'm like, I've booked for, a good
Hmm.
handful of people outside of myself and like my band. And that's
Yeah, you
something
booked
I
me
really,
shows, I think, out in Shawnee or something like that,
yeah,
and a few others.
yeah,
I was like, hell yeah, let's go do this.
yeah. I love all that. And, I've done that, freelance for people, outside of myself. And, it's fun for me. I don't know. It's just my mind goes there, and it's just, yeah, it's just fun, and I
That's
enjoy
cool.
it.
So it sounds like it grew as you kind of grew in the music
Yeah.
industry from some mentors, but then just you have a passion for it, which is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Which
And,
is always very like people, when I meet other musicians and I like tell them that, they're like, what? Like,
like
I
you
feel like
you
I'm just
like
like, yeah,
that part?
yeah. I'm like, I feel like a weirdo. Like, I'm just like, I have like all these different like music business books. Like, I don't know if have you read the Ari Herstand book?
It's actually under my nightstand. I just bought it. I have two books that are in my queue, and that's one of them. It's tough though because I don't think there was a Or no, I remember I bought the hard copy because I wanted to underline it. But typically with the way my time works out, I need to do Audible books. But I knew that one, I was like, I'm gonna need a hard copy. I'm probably gonna need to go back and reference things because I learn a lot from him online, just like
Oh, he's awesome.
sporadically. And I think you were the one who first introduced me to like what he was up to. And I
Yeah.
was like, I got to buy this book. So yeah, it's in the queue. I'll probably be able to start it right beginning of 2021.
He is great. I was able to meet him at one of so CD Baby has a conference called the DIY Musician Conference. And I went like 2 years in a row. We actually played it, or RBC played it. And I met him and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a huge fan. I kind of like fangirled out. And he was like, what's up? He was actually very nice. Like you always like meet people and you're like, okay, play it cool. And I always like try to play it cool, but I'm just like perpetually like when I get excited, I get really just like kind of nerdy and awkward.
Like, I can't hold it in.
Yeah. So I was able to meet him and his book, and he has like a revisited version. Like there's a second version of it, just updated, and it's super,
I think that's
like,
the one I got, like big bright orange one. Right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And I suggest like any singer songwriter that like just wants to be informed and like actually like informed. There's also besides Ari, like I'm reading. Actually, hold on. I'm reading the Derek Sivers, like CD Baby Derek Sivers. I'm reading both his books right now. Your Music and People, and then Hell Yeah or No. And my friend Emma Jo got these. Yeah, my friend Emma Jo got these for me, and they're both really good so far. There's kind of like little like short essays about just how to get your music out and the music business, and yeah, like them. And I'm trying to think who else. I really shout out to Wade Sutton with the 6-Minute Music Business Podcast.
Oh yeah, I've seen that podcast out there. I haven't listened to it. It's like I'm good at knowing things exist, but apparently I don't dive into that.
Yeah, no, he's great, and I looked at my Spotify Wrapped, and I had to send. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I had to message him, or not message him. I posted on his wall like, because my most listened to podcast this year was his podcast. And it was like, you've listened this many hours. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've listened to like his whole podcast series.
That's awesome.
And so I posted it to his Facebook. I'm like, apparently like I'm a huge fan and you're awesome. So just super like straight to the point and like just innovative, information. And that's really important, especially like what we talked about, just to kind of go back a little bit earlier, what we were talking about, like this year, trying to think outside the box, and not everything that we're doing is necessarily normal, because of the landscape of everything. So
right,
it's an interesting time.
Are you familiar with Rick Barker?
Oh yeah,
and his stuff.
Yes, yeah, I've met him.
Yeah.
I met him actually at CD Baby as well, and he is awesome.
That's all. Yeah, he was instrumental for us in the beginning of our band, where we actually paid for coaching and all that, which I was super skeptical, and Daniel had to convince me to do it. Yeah. But the more we checked him out, just because I feel like there's a million people out there who are promising you so many things in the music industry, and they're going to sell you this or that, or do this consulting work for X amount of dollars, and you're going to be famous, But the more we researched him, it was like, oh no, this dude's super legit. And then going through his course, it helped us a ton in social media and how we leveraged it. Some of those people have kind of boiled to the top, I think, over the last few years. And luckily, I think there's a lot of the people who are full of shit are just kind of going away. And unfortunately, there's new ones who just keep popping up. But yeah, I was always so skeptical, because I swear like our first year and a half of going, there was a million people who were like, oh, here's my book, here's this thing. And you find out they're not doing much either. But yeah, Rick Barker is legit. That Ari dude, the more I've been looking into, I'm excited to dive into his book.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of information. I think you'll like it a lot. He just has a lot of good points. He's just always seems to be kind of ahead of the game. So definitely suggest.
Now on the business end of things, like let's say 2021 comes back, everything's starting to fire away. You get to go have coffee with a new artist who's trying to figure out how to do this thing. And they're like, hey, Jillian, I want to take you out to coffee. I want to pick your brain. What's something that you would want to share with them right now that you're learning? Like, hey, this one thing as a new artist you should be thinking about.
I would say like as a new artist, just like here and now, because I always talk with my friend Emma about this. It's so interesting to see from when like we started performing and singing to what everything looks like now, just as a performer and in the music industry. It's so vastly different, like the goals.
So different. It's true.
Um, I would just say like try to be, as creative and think outside the box. Try to be as creative as possible, think outside the box, also have multiple things going on. Like it would be great just to, there are some lucky people where all they do is just perform, or all they do is, songwrite. But I would say right out the box while you're kind of like building yourself up or rebuilding, like for instance, with me, like I kind of had to rebuild everything, and I'm still rebuilding after being in a band for so long. And then taking on all these new chapters in my life as a solo artist and as one person, just have multiple things going on that you're passionate about and that you can put all your effort into. That's what I'm doing with like lessons in kinder music and, performing and, I'm getting into voiceover work. Like that's something I've really wanted to do for a long time. It's like voice acting and voiceover work, and doing some more songwriting with, producer and songwriter friends. So you don't have to necessarily like just do one total thing all the time. Like have that one thing, like this is what I love and this is what like I'm
That's
good
the
at.
thing. Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the main focal thing. But you have these little branches, from your tree. So you have your roots and you have your tree and then you have your branches, and it all is like one thing. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's funny because I actually just last year I started doing very minimal voiceover work, and that's one of the goals for me is try to do a little bit of that as well, find another stream of income. And our 8-year-old landed a voiceover thing on his own. So he's part of some series in Indonesia. It's an English series in Indonesia, and somehow landed that because a friend's kid couldn't do it, so he was able to audition. He ended up getting the part.
That's amazing.
But yeah, that's cool that you bring that up as another avenue, because it was something I had never thought about until a friend of mine she's full-time voice actor. And
cool.
she actually threw something to me. She's like, I think you'd be good at this, and was able to audition, get the part. And it just hit me. I'm like, man, this is, I'm sitting in Logic. I'm sitting with, my microphones, and it feels so much like music. It's just a whole other realm of income that's actually fun and you can do on your own schedule.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. It's just finding all those things that are just branches of what the main like roots are and everything. And I feel like that for me that keeps me going. Having different things going on. I don't want to like, I feel like I'm gonna get bored easily. I feel like as creatives and musicians, it's like, okay, what's like the next project? And for a lot of people, like, it's like the next like album or EP or whatever. But like,
right.
I just like to have a few different things going on. It just keeps me moving forward and keeps me going and keeps me, I guess, excited and inspired more than anything. Instead of doing the same thing over and over, it's just like, I don't know. That's just, I think you understand.
Oh, definitely. That's like I was doing a season of just writing, like literally every day, just for like 3 months straight, and just going at it. Because that's my favorite thing. Like you're like, talk about what's that one thing. My favorite thing is writing. I love it. But then I started hating it every minute, and I couldn't write anymore. Everything. I was like, it's all shit. This is horrible stuff that I'm putting out. And it's actually Josh who was like, bro, you need to like stop writing. You need to go do something else. Why don't you take your kids to the park, or why don't you go, it's like, as creatives, if you get so drilled down in something, it's like you don't experience. Let me backtrack. I guess what I'm learning over the last few years is to be creative, you have to be able to pull from different parts of life. And if you just get so focused on one thing, you suddenly have no life to inject into that creativity. And that was a huge lesson for me.
Yeah, that's incredibly true.
Now, over 2020, a lot of people have been talking with, we tend to find ourselves a little extra time. despite all the things going on. And in that time, there's a lot of internal growth that seems to be happening for a lot of people in conversations, whether creatives or business people, whatever. What for you, is there anything internally about yourself that you feel like, man, this is something I'm learning about myself and I want to carry into the coming years?
I think for me, and this is something that's back and forth almost on a day-to-day basis. And just that struggle of trying to like realize like, hey, I can do this thing. So like, I mean, I was in a really incredibly dark place for like a really long time. And like, if you listen to any of my new music, like I talk about that in the songs, and I pulled myself out of that. And it's been, this really interesting journey I've been on the past few years. And there's still days where it's like really back and forth. Like one day I'm just like, hey, I'm having a great day. And then the next day I'm like, wow, what's going on? Like, what is life? And I think everybody
The
has
dark
those
comes
days,
back in a
probably.
way.
Yes. Yeah. And I think this year, like, because a lot of people have been isolated and everything, and especially people that are very extroverted, it's been hard. And, things have been rocky financially for a lot of people this year. And that's always scary. So but I think something that I've realized, just like, training for Kinder Music and getting back into teaching and just figuring out, what music looks like for me, as a solo artist, as an adult versus like a high schooler, just realizing that like I'm capable and that I'm limitless, and that people create a limited thinking. And I felt like for a long time I was creating a limited thinking about a lot of things, like, I don't know if I can do this because of this thing, just whatever XYZ silly thing, because a lot of the things that we make up in our mind cause us to have limited thinking,
Right.
just like something society says or something that you tell yourself that you just like literally made up in your head, and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Why did I do and so I think I have, just releasing new solo music on my own, and getting even into Kinder Music training and starting to teach again. And like there were a few shows, I don't really want to share them, but there were a few shows that I got on that were supposed to happen this summer that were like really cool and major to me. And just the fact that I was going to be on those, despite them getting canceled because of Corona,
Yeah.
wow, like that's cool. Like I can do that. Just getting back to that mindset. And like I have a necklace
That's
on, it
cool.
says I am capable. It's like engraved in my necklace. So just
That's awesome.
believing. Yeah, Taylor got this for me.
Nice. Well done. Well done to Taylor.
Yeah. Yeah, but just realizing, even if I'm having a bad day, or not knowing in my head that like I am capable and like I can manifest things. Like when I say like manifest, like I don't mean like, oh, I'm just going to think this thing and it's going to like come to life magically. Because a lot of people get that wrong, like about
Like the
manifestation.
metaphysical, like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. And I'm just like, just kind of believing in that magic. But it's like with manifestation and believing in kind of that thinking, there has to be action behind it, right? There has to be solid action,
Right.
and that thinking, and have those two things combined. And I fully believe in that. And I feel, because I've thought those thoughts and put action behind them, that it's helped. And because I don't believe in necessarily toxic positivity, because that's a thing. Like just saying like positive vibes, positive thoughts, positivity,
Whole fucking house is
24/7.
burning down, positive vibes. Yeah, wait a minute. Hold
Absolutely.
on.
Yeah, no. That's like that having more of an optimistic mindset is great, and being
Right.
positive and positive thinking is great, but there is toxic positivity that is truly a thing. And so trying to mix just like optimism and hope, and just manifesting your, what you truly want in life, like having that type of thinking this year has helped me like push forward, especially on the bad days. So yeah.
That's cool. Are you familiar with the Royal Chief? He's a rapper here out of Kansas City.
No.
If you get a chance, check him out. Like, he's brilliant, and his recent music videos amazing. Like I saw it online and I immediately reached out to him. I was like, bro, we got to do this podcast and talk. But
Nice.
we were just talking about a similar concept, and it almost felt like The Secret, like said, like I'm going to metaphysically, but we were talking about like, it doesn't sound like he does or I, that you make it just happen, but it's like when you start focusing on certain things, we equated it to when you're looking at a vehicle. Like I wanted to buy a 4x4 Dodge Ram 2500, and I started falling in love with those things. And now everywhere I went, all I saw was Dodge Ram 2500s. And he
Yeah.
said he had the same experience when he was trying to buy his Jeep. And it's like your mindset, if you're focused on that thing, it begins to see the opportunities around you. And it's like
Yes.
you still have to take those opportunities, you still have to make those opportunities happen, but it can change how you view the world. You can see the opportunity or the hope that's in front of you. But I love that. I'm capable, I'm limitless, and that's really cool. And I know Tony Robbins is kind of a problematic character in some level, but there's a quote from him that I really do love, and it's something like, the only thing holding you back is the bullshit story you tell yourself every day. And
Yeah.
that hits me, because those are things I constantly deal with, the reels that go in my head, the baggage that I let keep spinning. It's like, but I love that. I'm capable and I'm limitless. You mentioned like just darkness, and I like, for me, I've dealt with a lot of darkness throughout my life of battling depression, OCD, those kind of things, where some of my life, it got really heavy and really hard. And now it's a thing that like I can relate in what you're saying. Like some days it just pops up again. If you don't want to talk about it, I understand. But when you talk about the darkness you went through, what was kind of that breakthrough moment for you to start finding healing?
I think the breakthrough moment, and like I said, every day, like I have to not physically think. I have to go in my head and be like, hey, like things are going to be okay. Cause it's so easy, Miguel, to get caught up in like, oh, I'm worried about maybe this bill getting paid, or I'm worried about this, goal being met, or I'm worried about this relationship I have going on with this person. Like, it's so easy to get caught up in like little like nuances that are just constant in life. Like from the time, not we're born necessarily, but like adulthood, just our adult life. And I think really like that breaking point though. And when you say breaking point, it's funny you say that, because my first single I put out was Breaking Point.
There you go.
Last year. So good. Good on you.
You're like, I don't know, just go listen to the song. There it is.
Just go listen to the song. It's on Spotify. I think it was that point where I felt so down and depressed and like hopeless. And I was severely depressed, and my anxiety was horrible. I was in you and I have talked about this privately. Like I was in a very tumultuous relationship, and professional relationship. And I was like, well, something has to change. Like it's going to be drastic, whatever it is. And I was so afraid, because you get in those times or those relationships or those ties with people, and you're like, how am I going to actually break this and my world not like fall apart and crash and burn? Right. And I was at that point, and my best friend called me after I called her. She called me back, and I sat in a parking lot and talked to her for 5 hours, and then I told her all these things that went on, and then I told my family, and people didn't know the extent of things that were happening that were just not a good time. And I was like, I feel though that my life is worth more than that, and that I shouldn't continue on. And it was really, a lot of it was like, what about the music, because that's been my whole life. It's always been my number one focal point and passion. And I felt like if I had got rid of all that everything was going to go away. And I'm like, hold on, like, but that's not true. Like, that's not, what I mean? So I just had to have those conversations with people that I cared about. And sometimes we get so in our own head that sometimes sharing those feelings with other people can truly help, because sometimes you get so far back in your own head that you get lost,
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so yeah, that breaking point was that time, like a few years ago. And it's, like I said, it's been a journey, and there are some some kind of seasons almost where I'm like really struggling, but I always come out and I'm like, I know that I'm on a good path, and I know that I'm moving forward, and I just need to keep that mindset and keep manifesting the things that I want, and just have that like limitless thinking. And I'm thankful that I'm surrounded by, I have a really good family and boyfriend and friends and dog, as goofy as he is. And just, some people in music, and just knowing that, and then knowing that, I am okay and that I am capable. I know that all sounds super cheesy, but that was definitely the breaking point. And obviously
Yeah.
I wrote a song about that. I don't know
And the
funny
next
when
two
I-
tracks are Capable and then Limitless that'll come out
Right, yeah.
after that, right? But I could see why those
What about you?
words, especially what you're explaining, are so powerful. I keep coming back to it because it feels very powerful even to myself. Like this week I'll probably whisper those same things to myself. So, but that's amazing for you even to share that part of your story, because unfortunately, and I've seen it, a lot of people get to that point and they're never able to find a way out of it. And
Yeah.
that's the real they live for the rest of their lives. And so it's a powerful thing to hear you share your story and to see you not just sharing your story, but you're living it out and continue to build great things in front of you. And so that's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Of
Really cool.
course, yeah. And just it's a journey every day, and people have to understand that it's not like, oh, I'm gonna wake up and everything's gonna be perfect. Like, you have to work on your stuff, you have to work on all your stuff, even the stuff you don't want to like get figured out, whether it's like emotional, mental stuff, up here, or it's just figuring out your finances or figuring out what your next step is. Like,
Right.
we just have to constantly work on that, whether we want to or not, but also know that there are people there outside of your own self, as strong as you might be, that will be supportive of you, even if you think there aren't. Because I think a lot of people get to that point where they just are like, everything seems like a black hole. And I've lost friends to suicide, and people that I've cared about to suicide. And it's just, that's never the answer, whether you think
Right.
it is or not. And know that like you are like worthy and loved, and everyone is. And yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thinking about the philosophical end of things and
Yeah.
live and create, I love to land the plane on the two questions that drive the podcast. Is something I'm constantly thinking about and fascinated with. But for you, how would you define living a great life?
Ooh, that's it. Miguel, you're coming in with like these like awesome questions. I'm
Thanks.
like, okay. I'm like, I haven't had enough coffee for this yet.
Yeah, I had my whole thermos, ready for it.
Yeah,
So
you're just like,
maybe I
it's
should
just
warn
full.
people, but like, come on, get a whole thermos.
Yes. I think living a great life, I just feel like, one, never stop learning. Like, I feel like once you stop learning, like in any capacity, you essentially die, whether you're alive or not. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I would say never stop learning. Always find something to be passionate about, because that's, if you're not passionate about anything, even if it's just like a fun hobby, life can become so hard and monotonous. And what's the point of that? We're not here for, a long time. So try to make it a good time. And trying to think what else. Have a pet. Have a dog.
It does
bird,
tend to help. We just got a little terrier for the house, and it's been an adventure. As she's getting potty trained, it's getting more fun. But no, it's brought some life, definitely.
Yes.
Our household's pretty crazy anyway with 4 boys, but yeah,
oh my God.
It's been cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, music and arts like that, just traveling, like travel whenever you're able, just, be kind to one another. I know these are all super cheesy points, but as I've gotten older, like just things I've realized, family is really important.
Right.
Or, whoever you treat as your family. It doesn't have to necessarily be blood. Like everybody's situation is different, but finding that core group of people that you consider like your family,
Absolutely.
that's really important. I think when we're younger, we take that for granted, maybe a little bit. As we go into high school and outside of high school, it's really, I'm just like go through that rebellious phase or whatever, but family is super important. And just, and having hope, and believing in something, like believing in yourself and having like hope, is really important.
Yeah. Well, and I know you say like you feel it's cheesy. Sometimes I think of things as like cliche, right? But the reason some things are cliche is because they're just true. Like there's sometimes I get frustrated when I listen to pop music because I'm like, oh, here's the 10,000th, love song. And then I listen to like an 80s love song and it's like the same song almost. But I think the nugget of truth in there is that's the human experience. No matter what decade, no matter what you're going through, whether it was a pandemic or whether it's through, financial turmoil, whatever it was, those concepts, those cliches are just part of the human experience. And I think that's something I've been reflecting on a lot lately because I tend to try to get away from that idea, but in reality, that's what people are connecting with. Like as a creator, like how do I create songs that tell the human experience? And so I think, I don't think it's necessarily cheesy or cliche. It's really just part of the human experience and what brings people actual joy and connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just a cheese ball though. So let's be real.
And so going to the next question and last question, how would you define how would you define creating great things?
I would say as long as there is passion behind it and you believe in it and, you're proud of yourself, then that's great. That's the thing with like music and arts. It's so like opinion based. So one person can think like a song is, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like Rolling Stone should write this up. And the other person next to them would be like, this is hot garbage. So I think it's all opinion based. And I think as long as that you're proud of it and you put, like your heart and soul into it, then I think other people, like people that care about you and they're going to think it's great. So yeah, that's kind of my take on that.
That's cool. I love it. Well, thanks for taking the time and for sharing.
Yeah.
And I love that concept that you talked about, capable and limitless. And so hopefully eventually down the road, do another interview and see how 2021 went for you as the world comes back. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Miguel. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.